Hello, baseball way of lifers. It's been a while, and I bet you thought I wouldn't be doing these broadcasts anymore, but here I is, uh, here to talk baseball. Had a couple months off, and what I'm trying to do is think about how to streamline this and make it more fun, interactive, et cetera, et cetera. So what I decided to do when I had some free time was actually try to figure out a hot topic of the day. Uh, And then, because I basically went through like the group, and you can always tell what triggers people, whether it be Pete Rose, Barry Bonds, steroids, Rob Manfred, the lockout. So there's always something to talk about if I dig deep and see what the group is really in tune with. Now, for those of you who are just watching on YouTube, let me remind you of the group. It's called Baseball Way of Life. It's on Facebook. By all means, please do join. Join in the fun and festivities if you're a diehard baseball fan. And if you're a member of Baseball Way of Life, please continue to do so and watch and just have fun doing this. So, the first topic on my big return, it came kind of unannounced since unheralded here, is what do you guys think of the ESPN top 100 baseball list? Now, whenever you do a list where it's a top 100, crazy things start happening. People throw in their opinions. Now, my personal opinion is what should be done here is you create a list for the two different dividing groups when it comes to the all time greats. Those who would qualify no matter what happens off the field and only base it on what happened on the field. If that were the case, you would allow great players like Barry Bonds, Pete Rose, et cetera, to actually be part of this top 100 list. If it's not your cup of tea and you think the top 100 list should not have these people, well, then I guess what you need to do is eliminate almost half the players who are either in the Hall of Fame or still being denied access into the Hall of Fame. So before we go any further, just so you can either shoot me through the screen or let me get some compliments on my list. I'm about to give you my top 10 list. Drum roll, please. I can't do that. Don't have a drummer. But my number one man is the Bambino. As a matter of fact, I watched The Sandlot yesterday. And if that didn't endorse Babe as the greatest player of all time, not that The Sandlot is the end all and tail all, but he has such a folklore status in American baseball, and he did everything. He was the non sports figure during his playing era, and I don't think that you can actually say someone that even comes close to the impact that Babe has as far as baseball players are concerned. So Babe is number one in my book. Uh, Now, number two, it's going to be a little bit controversial, but this is the player that I've seen in my career, in his career, almost in his entirety. I've seen the good and the bad. I saw when he did steroids, and I saw when he was just a Pittsburgh Pirate and even a San Francisco Giant before doing it. Uh, and that would be Barry Bonds. Now, the only reason why I rate Barry Bonds ahead of such notables as Walter Johnson and Cy Young, and I'm looking at the list that I have here, Roger Clemens is he is an everyday player, and to me, everyday players get more street cred in these lists, especially if you think they're almost even, if they're on par with each other. So that's what I'm doing here, is because Barry Bonds played every day. I'm giving Bonds the nod on this one. And then after that, I guess you got to go with Walter Johnson. If you dig deep on Walter Johnson's numbers, he was just phenomenal. He was the granddaddy of them all. Now, I'm a big Tom Seaver fan, and I know a lot of you may not want to hear this. Maybe some of you do. I'm a big Roger Clemens fan. And to me, those were the best pitchers of my era watching the game. Now, I base it not only, a lot of people go like Sandy Koufax, a lot of people go with Pedro Martinez. But to me, you have to have a little bit more longevity to reach that status. Now, in a 5 to 7 year period, Koufax and Clemens were fantastic. Do not get me wrong. They were fantastic. But Seaver and Clemens did it for almost 20 years. Now, we can dispute the whole Clemens thing and whether or not steroids helped with him or not. But that's just my opinion. I'm sticking with it. And then, of course, we have the next three, in my opinion, after Ruth and Mays, as far as everyday great players. Now, Willie Mays may actually be the best five-tool player of them all, but to me, Willie didn't have the biggest impact. Now, if you look at Willie's records, he didn't have the average that all the greats have, but he could do everything. And Hank Aaron was just, you talk about a model consistency, like I'm preaching Seaver and Johnson over Koufax and Martinez. Well, he had the body of work over 20 years. What he did was fantastic. Hammer and Hank. And Ty Cobb, before the Babe came, he would have been number one on the list. I mean, he was the ultimate hitter. I mean, from his youngest rookie year to his last year, this guy could still whack the ball. And to me, that says a lot about Ty Cobb. Now, guys, I think Stan Musial is very underrated. And I can see how he doesn't rate above them. But Stan Musial really needs to come into this mix every now and then. And to me, I put Stan the Man up there with Ted Williams. Ted Williams was the best pure hitter of all time. From what I read, he wasn't that great an everyday player. But to me, it's Stan and it's Ted Williams. So they would be next on my list. And then two players that you really have to dig deep in baseball history to get a good grasp of. And that's Tris Speaker and Honest Wagner. Look at the numbers. I mean, they'll just blow your mind. They were really, really good ball players. And here's one that's going to blow your mind out too. As far as the modern day players, now we already discussed Bonds, but I think right after that, I'll go with A-Rod. I mean, A-Rod was one of the best shortstops before he came to the Yankees. Now, I don't know if there was political dealing or not. A-Rod was probably the better shortstop than Jeter, but Rodriguez, say what you want about him, unselfishly decided to play third base to let Jeter remain at shortstop. Now, I don't know if Jeter could have handled third. I don't know the inner workings of that, but I applaud him. I mean, I know he did the steroids, but he was so talented. A-Rod was just so fun to watch. Now, this is going to be a joke. He reminded me of Mike Schmidt on steroids. And Mike Schmidt, to me, before all these guys came along in the 90s, was the most complete player of all time. And let's not forget Mickey Mantle. Mickey Mantle, one of the greatest players of all time. And again, injuries and his own self-destruction kind of hurt him. Otherwise, I think he would have been in my top 10. The other guy, Lou Gehrig. I just don't know where. Lou is such an offensive force. He was such a leader on the field. And that's why these lists are so damn hard to do. But I'm giving you my personal opinions. Like if I was building a ball club, and after Lou would be Albert Pujols. To me, they're 1-2 when it comes to first baseman here. I don't know if you agree, disagree, but that's how I feel about that. And then the most exciting player of all, and I think he doesn't get the credibility he deserves, is Ricky Henderson, because he basically reinvented the game with the steals. Now, he might have stole a little bit too much if you dig deep into his career, and he got caught a lot, but he was such a dynamic player. Not only could he get on base, he could hit. He could hit with power. His arm was a little suspect out there. But Ricky Henderson, now I think what hurts Ricky is the fact, I'm going to say like a modern-day Gary Sheffield, but they were pretty close in playing years. He just played on too many teams, but we all associate him with the A's. But Ricky really did bounce around a lot. And I think when you don't immediately establish an identity with one team, I think it does hurt you in the long run. But like I said, Everyone's entitled to their opinion on these things. I'd be curious as to how you guys think in your comments here. So please, please, please feel free to agree, disagree, whatever. And when I do these broadcasts, just leave a comment. I'll address them at the end of the show. But that's my little snippet for today. Like I said, I'm going to not keep these marathon things. I'm just going to give my thought for today on baseball, kind of basing it off the feel on what I'm getting in the group and what they feel about what's going on there. So I hope you enjoy it. And we'll be back to rock you. We'll be back to rock. Oh, yeah. We're like the E Street Band. We're going to come back to rock you. I can sense baseball coming around. The idiots who run baseball, Rob Manfred, and I do believe this is the case. I'm impartial, but I'm blaming the owners on this one because they locked the players out. The players came back. Now they want a mediator to do it. Well, why did you lock them out in the first place? Why didn't you just get a mediator to come in back in December? And I can't even describe. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not sure what's going on with this thing, but it just sickens me that even if they delay spring training, to me, that kind of tarnishes the season. But we'll be discussing that in the future too. But again, it's good to be back. Hope you guys, during some time, you don't have to watch all of them, but once in a while, check it out. Like I said, it's going to be based on the hot topics in baseball way of life. And if you're not a member of the group, we're on Facebook, and the group is called Baseball: A Way of Life. Please do join it. We're over 10,000 strong, and I'm not bragging. When I see some of these people and the knowledge that they have, it just blows my mind. Wait till you see how difficult my trivia and Jeopardy questions are, and yet these guys get them all the time. So it's a good group. It's not a lot of smack talk. We talk serious ball. I take it somewhat seriously, but we still have fun nonetheless. But I do like to discuss what the hardcore fan wants to discuss in the group, and others have followed suit. So that's it. It's good to be back, and we'll talk soon. If not tomorrow, very soon. But again, guys, thanks for watching. I really do appreciate it.